Hey everyone! The Big Pine Mine On30 layout finally has a mine. I've completed building this Bantam Model Works kit. It's a fairly straightforward kit to put together, but it is basically a box of sticks. You get all the separate wood pieces, and then you get a bunch of templates to assemble that allow you to build all the sections pretty easily, and then you glue all those together like you would a regular kit. But anyway, let's take a closer look at this mine and where I'm at with the On30 layout. Okay, so with this Little Creek Mining Company kit from Bantam Model Works, you can see that you get a nice set of instructions with plenty of pictures, so you can easily see how everything is supposed to go together. You also get a couple of packages of various laser cut pieces, including windows, and a package of laser cut cardboard pieces. The cardboard pieces are for building all of the jigs and templates that you need for assembling the kit. And of course, you get a pile of strip wood of various dimensions that you need for building most of the structures. I started out by building the main lift house since that is the easiest place to start, and I wanted to get an idea of the structure footprint for arranging the layout scenery. I assembled the 4 laser cut wall frame sections to the laser cut base using wood glue, and then just used some painter's tape to help hold everything together while the glue dried. While that was drying, I worked on assembling all of the templates. I started out using wood glue to hold the layers of cardboard together, but what worked really well was just simple glue stick. So I just rubbed the glue stick on there, stuck the pieces of cardboard together, and then I just weighted them down so everything dried flat. The cardboard jigs do make it easy to assemble the pieces of strip wood into the various wall panels and the structure segments that you need. I put all that aside to dry overnight, and then I worked on staining all of the wood for the kit. And you want to do that before gluing anything together that is visible from the outside, since the wood won't soak up any stain where the glue has been applied. And plus, by staining the wood ahead of time, once you have the structure building complete, you're basically done with no painting to do, except for any weathering that you might want to do. So I took these hunter line stains and stained all the pieces of strip wood. And if you have a large enough container and enough stain, you can just put all the wood in the container, pour the stain in there, let it soak for a while, and then pour the leftover stain back into your bottle. I didn't have a container that worked out well enough for this, and so I just ended up brushing on all of the stain by hand, but that still went pretty fast since I could do a few pieces at one time. Once the strip wood was done, I worked on all the laser cut panel pieces, staining both sides of them to help with minimizing warping of the wood. I let all of that dry overnight and then came back the next day and started working on the mine building that would contain the winch for the mine and the other equipment. The kit is set up such that there are 2 main doors, one on each side of the building, but since that one side would be up against the side of the mountain, I decided to move both doors to the same side. So I measured the larger door opening that was going to be up against the mountain and then transferred that to the front side of the structure and cut the wall framing to fit that opening. And then I took some of that wood I cut out and used it to frame out the opening of the new doorway. And then I immediately glued on a piece of the wall siding material to help secure that piece of the wall frame in place. And then I glued on a few more pieces of the siding to help get all that whole section secured. I let that dry for a while, and then I came back and applied all of the remaining siding to the structure. And it's a pretty simple process of just measuring each piece of siding and gluing it in place. Now, you don't get that much extra wood with the kit, so you do need to try and make sure you minimize your cutting as much as possible. So try to cut all the pieces as close as you can to the right size around the doors and window openings, and don't just cover them all up and then cut off the extra wood later. And also, you can pick up more of this wood material if you need it from your local hobby shop or even places like Hobby Lobby that often carry a wide selection of bass wood strips. And once all that was done, I worked on assembling the roof. Now, I ended up not getting any video of that, but there are just 2 roof panels and 2 truss sections that are all glued together. And then you glue on roofing material, and I again just use glue stick to cover the entire roof with the glue, and then I just laid the strips of roofing material on there. I painted the roof a dark gray color, and I'll eventually come back and do some weathering later on. They do also give you some plastic tubing that you can use for the vent and the chimney on the roof. Next, I moved on to assembling all the various segments for the remainder of the kit using the cardboard jigs. I also didn't get video of that, but it's a pretty straightforward process of using the jig to cut the pieces of wood that you need to the right length and then gluing them all together. The main thing is to be careful not to glue the wood to the cardboard, at least for the jigs that you need to use more than once. You could probably just rub a wax crayon or something like that onto the jigs to help prevent any glue from sticking to them. Now, some of the resulting panel sections are also glued together using the jigs to help you keep everything lined up correctly and square. Overall, everything goes together pretty easily, but it does take a long time because there is a lot of time spent just waiting for the glue to dry before moving on to the next stage of assembly. I would normally just come out and glue a few pieces together, wait about 10 minutes, come out and do some more gluing, and just kind of kept doing that process over the course of a week or so until I had everything complete. If you used a glue that set up faster than wood glue, the whole process would go a lot faster, but it wasn't really a big issue for me to do everything just with regular wood glue. Now, one notable change I had to make to this kit was that I was going to have the structure holding the winch all aligned at about a 90-degree angle to the tipple structure instead of all in a straight line as the kit is set up for. So I had to set the big pulley wheel on top at a 90-degree angle to what it was supposed to be originally. And so I just used a bunch of scrap wood to build up supports to hold the wheel in place in a way that looked relatively reasonably realistic. And they do give you a lift for carrying up a mine car to the tipple as well that fits inside there, but you don't get a mine car itself with the kit, so I did buy one separately, and I put that on the lift to use with the whole scene. I then added the wood track that's provided to the top of the tipple, and then I stained the string they give you for the main cable and got that glued on as well. Now, I also needed to assemble the chutes and doors for the tipple, but I didn't have, again, enough of that strip wood left, so I just used scrap pieces of wood that were long enough from the various panel sections that I had left over. Once I got those parts made, I glued the chutes in place, but I didn't glue the doors themselves in place. They could still slide up and down, but in the end it didn't really matter because I actually glued some rock inside the tipple itself, and that ended up gluing the doors shut as well, so they don't really operate anymore. But it really wouldn't be that hard to leave them operational, and you could have a small motor in there that could lift those up and down, or just a manual control of some type if you actually did want to be able to load the cars that you place in front of it. Anyway, you can see how the mine looked with everything glued together and set in place on the layout. I did want to add some interior details to the mine, so I picked up this interior detail kit. This is one of those kits made up of white metal castings that have to be cleaned up and glued together. I just used super glue to hold everything together and didn't bother on adding all the various small detail pieces since you wouldn't really be able to see them anyway through the openings of the doors and windows. I didn't technically paint anything either since it does have that silver metal color to it, and so instead I just applied a sepia color stain wash to everything and then actually used some Neo Lube as well in places to simulate oil since that pretty much sticks to anything. And then I pretty much just smeared a mix of that sepia stain and Neo Lube that was left over on the floor of the mine structure to make that look worn and oil covered. And before installing the mine structure on the layout, I did cut out a small opening to represent the mine shaft and painted that brown. And I set it up so the mine lift and the mine car that's on it are slightly below grade, so you can kind of just see them coming up the lift, and that kind of gives the impression that there's a mine shaft there that you just can't see. I then painted the area around the mine structure area with some white glue and sprinkled on a mix of ground cover material that was mostly dirt and small gravel, since it'd be kind of hard to get that added in there once the tipple itself was glued in place. Finally, I added some rock that I used inside the tipple around the outside of the tipple, let everything dry, and this part of the project was done. Anyway, you can see that with the mine done and the big pine I needed for the layout done as well, things are nearing completion, and I still have to finish up some track ballasting and some remaining scenery work, but that should go pretty fast, and then this layout project will basically be complete. So look for the final video in this series later this summer, as well as a complete start-to-finish build compilation. But anyway, that's all for now, and thanks for watching. Bye.